So now let's look at formulas and functions, ways that we can make better use of analyzing our data. Let's start with a formula. So a formula is just a task or a mathematical equation that we can have Google Sheets perform. So anytime we're writing a formula, we're always going to start with the equals, and then you could put in something like 2 plus 2, hit return, and it's going to calculate that for you. And so you can put any set of numbers and mathematical equations in like that and have it calculate your data. But there's a better way to do that. We also can use cells and cell numbers to put in our information and have it calculate or write a formula. So let's say that we want to calculate averages for the scores. So I've got my column there. I'm going to do averages. And I'm going to go here. And again, we always start with equals. Okay. And notice that automatically Google Sheets is very intuitive and it's thinking, hey, I bet that they want to average. And so it kind of gives you that suggestion. And we're going to come back to that and how we use that in just a minute. But I want to show you another way that we can do that. So I've got equals. And then I'm going to click on my first grade, and you will notice instead of putting in this number 67, it's actually putting in the cell that it's in, which is C2. And then I'm going to do plus my next one, which is D2, plus, and I'm going to do that for each one of the scores that I have. Now, I remember that in mathematics, if I wanted to add all these up, and then I need an average, and to get an average, I'm going to add these 5 numbers up and then divide by the number of grades that I have, which is 5. I need to put parentheses around these so that it will add all of these up first, and then once it's added them up, I can tell it to divide by 5, which is the number that I have, hit return, and it has averaged it. Now, it also gives me a suggestion. Hey, do you want to autofill that same equation all the way down? And you just can hit the check button and it will do that for you. Now, if for some reason it doesn't offer you that autofill option, you can click on the little circle here at the edge of the cell and drag it down and it will copy that down. Now, the great thing about using cell numbers to write your equations is that, first of all, it averages based on the row that you want. So if you notice here, all of these are C2, D2, E2, F2, G2. If I go down one, okay, we are now doing C3 through G3. And so it changes automatically. The other great thing about this is if I change a grade, it will automatically update the average. So I'm able to do that. Now, there are other things that we can do as well. So let's clear these off. And let's talk about, instead of formulas, let's talk about functions. Okay, so if I want to average again, I'm going to do equals. And now notice that again, it offers me this suggestion of average. And I could simply click on this and it would automatically average for me. But if it doesn't give me that suggestion or it doesn't suggest the right thing, let's look at what we want to do. So we're going to do equals and then we're going to type a word. That word is triggering a function. So I'm going to type in average. And notice when I do that, it not only gives me average, but it gives me a lot of other options for formulas that can be calculated, for functions that this Google Sheet can do. Okay, and you can check those out if you want to, but I'm going to stick with just average. And then notice automatically it's going to put the parentheses there. I'm going to go click on the first cell. And then instead of typing in every single cell that I want, I'm just going to drag so that I highlight the 5 that I want. And you will notice that it puts in C2 colon G2 so that I have that range of cells that I want it to average. I'm going to close parentheses and I'm going to hit enter. It's going to average those and then again it's going to offer to autofill those. And so now I have my averages laid out here. There are additional functions that are very common. So let's take a look at some others. Another one is, what if I wanted to add up all of the scores? Well, I'm going to do that with equals sum. Okay, so if I want it to sum or add them up, I'm going to do sum. And then in my cell, I'm going to do equals sum. And then again, it automatically kind of picks up those that it wants me to use. Or I could do select that range. Okay, so now when I click here, I can see that it's doing sum of C2 through G2. And again, I could copy and drag that down. Another one you might want to use is max. This will pick out the max score of all of the scores you have in your grade book. So equals max. Okay. And then this time, if it doesn't pick up on those, I can highlight them, close parentheses. It's going to give me the max number. Again, it will suggest autofill. You can do the same thing with the minimum number. So you've got those there. Okay, so those are some of those basic functions. Another one that's very common is the if function. And so you can do this and it will give you an answer based on some parameters that you set up. So let's say that we're looking at our unit test, and anyone that makes an A gets a special treat. So I'm going to say equals if, and I'm going to open my parentheses, and I'm going to say if G2 is greater than or equal to 90, then I'm going to put treat, and notice that I put that in parentheses. Okay, and then if it's not, I'm going to put a comma, no treat, close parentheses. Okay, and when I hit enter, and then it again does the autofill option, and I can see, okay, this person made a 100, so they're getting a treat. 93, which is above 90, treat, and then 47, 78, 87, no treat because they scored below that parameter. Okay, those are just some of the basic functions. You can also do a couple of other things, like I could say equals today, and then I'm going to do just an open and close parentheses. Nothing has to go inside my parentheses, and when I hit enter, it's going to put today's date on there. And every time that I open this spreadsheet, it will update to whatever day it is for that day. I could also do equals now, and that's going to be the date and the time. And again, that will update as well. Okay, there are tons of other functions that are offered in Google Sheets. And so you actually have, if I click on these three little dots for more, you have this little symbol for functions. And if I click on this, it's going to give you some of those common ones. Count is another one if you need to know how many different cells are filled in. But then you have all kinds of different things that you can have in here. Tons of different functions. A lot of them, I don't even have an idea what they do. But if you ever want to do something, there's probably a function for it, and you can do some research and figure out what that is. So you can find all of those functions here, or you can also find those functions under Insert and Function, and you find the same list there. So tons of ways that you can analyze data in a Google Sheet using formulas and functions.